Hi there. Thanks for downloading and listening. As we approach the end of the drawing of the three, it becomes even more important that we build up hype for the next season. We're getting into some really good stuff here in the series, so now is a great time to get people in and on board with the Dark Tower train, and specifically with the show. So if you can, help spread the word on Twitter, or by writing about it on a forum or any other social media, sharing us on Facebook. All of that helps tremendously. We don't pay to advertise the show, so it is really just your word of mouth that gets us around. So yeah, just consider doing that. We would really appreciate it if you could. Now let's listen to the show. Welcome to Radio Free Midworld, a podcast about the Dark Tower series of books. My name is Kole Ross, and today I'm joined by Autumn Greer.
Hey guys, how's it going?
And by Paddy Smith.
Good evening. Thanks for having me again.
Yeah, welcome back, both of you. We're rocking it 3 style this time. We decided it was people with red hair only. Yeah. So there we go. We decided to put our flag down, make a stand. Yeah, and we're here to talk about the first part of the last book, the last section of the drawing of the three, the Pusher, kind of getting introduced to a very strange character in a book that has been full of them so far.
Am I the only one that when I hear the Pusher, instantly in my head, I think of the Curtis Mayfield Superfly song? Like, every time I read the Pusher, I'm like, he's the Pusher, baby. Like, dung.
I'm your mama, I'm your daddy. And that is as far as that's as far as I'm going to go in that song. No, you are absolutely not alone in that, Autumn. That is a fantastic song. But yes, the Pusher carries a different connotation than we have here, which is quite literally somebody who pushes. So the usual question, both of you have been on before. What made you gravitate to sign up for this particular section of the book?
Well, for me, when you look at the series, you've read The Gunslinger. It's kind of a mystic thing. It's a guy on a quest. He's pulling these random people from the universe. And this section is where you start to realize that it might not be so random at all.
Right.
That these characters are connected in a different way. It's not just that, they pulled a lady and he fell in love with her. There's something else that is connecting everyone in this chapter.
Yeah. There's an intersection that is happening of something that cannot just be coincidence. Yeah. Paddy, how about you?
Literally the exact same thing. Thank you for saying those words, because I don't need to say them now. Literally the exact same reason. Like, this is where you start to see the wires and the beams connecting, for example.
Yeah.
So you start to see things connect. It's cool. Things are all coming together in this chapter.
Yeah.
And we get more of Crazy Detta. So there's that.
Oh, of course, yeah. We get to see just how capable she is here. She's not just struggling in a wheelchair for this. Like, she is actually a real and present force of danger in this.
That's surprising that on the Ginger Round Table we all agree.
Yeah.
Are we a notoriously querulous bunch?
Well, I mean, we have so much in common.
Oh, true.
This is the drawing of the 3 gingerhead people.
Of course. So yeah, we're going to meet that strange character that I alluded to before is kind of a person who connects a lot of different people that we've already met so far, is kind of this gross connective tissue in a way. So last time we talked about Roland and Eddie being boys on the beach. They found their second door. They found their second door, and from it they pulled a woman with 2 personalities. One being Detta Holmes, a kind and gentle person; the other being Detta Walker, who is violent, destructive, and just not very good news for them in terms of them being alive and going on with their quest. So she attempted to kill them, and they tied her to the wheelchair and basically struggled up the beach as Roland got sicker and sicker and sicker until they collapsed. And then, conveniently, that is when Detta goes back to sleep and Odetta wakes up.
Thank God.
But it's like we're trading one problem for the other, because now all of a sudden the only person who knows what the fuck is going on is we've got to leave him behind, right? So this opens up with another one of these interstitial chapters. This is the reshuffle. We're technically outside of the pusher right now, but this accounts for the majority of the real estate that we're going to talk about in this particular episode. As you know, Eddie is pushing Detta up the beach, trying to find the next door so he can basically, that lateral thinking puzzle with the hen, the fox, and the corn. That's what this is.
Cole, I wrote one note for this episode, and that's the note. I'm not even kidding.
That is so weird.
Well, now my note about the cannibal and the boats and the priests trying to get them across is not a good note.
Wait, is that seriously a variation of that?
I don't think that is just another logic puzzle. Okay. The boat can only hold 2 people. How do you get them all across?
Yeah.
Well, in this case, we've got the nice lady, the mean lady, and the cowboy.
Yeah. Yeah, that is what it boils down to. I just I want to take any opportunity we can to describe things as though we're 5-year-olds. It even happens in the book. Roland becomes the very bad man.
God, it's like Professor Layton. This reminds me of a puzzle, Luke.
Yeah.
That'll be my next complaint. Not enough pictures. Oh. The writing was too small, big words. Not good.
So many of them. That's the thing. When they're so small, there's so many. That is very strange that we both made the same observation, Paddy.
So weird.
Yeah. But that's kind of what they're dealing with. So this kind of interleaves a couple of different things that are happening at once. It cuts back and forth between Roland talking with Eddie, kind of telling him how he wants him to play this, and also Eddie's scenes with Detta as they're going up the beach. For the purposes of discussion, so we don't have to keep changing gears, I have actually disentangled these so we can just talk about what happened between Roland and Eddie, and then just get to, when Eddie and Detta find the door. Is that agreeable?
That's fine.
Yeah, that would have got confusing.
So let's talk about the discussion that Roland and Eddie have, because Roland has been trying to reiterate the very same information to him over and over again. Be on your guard, god damn it. And Eddie has no he's not listening, right? So, what do you guys think of of the information that is kind of conveyed in this, of what this shows about Roland and Eddie's kind of evolving relationship?
I think Roland's still trying to teach him in the same way that I think he's trying to take the place of Court, but for Eddie. He's trying to be his Court. He's trying to teach him how to survive in this world, and I think he's intuited some stuff about Detta that Eddie can't comprehend exactly. I think Roland's trying to say, look, she's really dangerous, dude. Boys on the beach, listen, yep. I'm your boy. Please listen to me, boy. He doesn't.
You're a boy. I'm a boy. This is a beach. Yeah.
Whoop, whoop.
And Eddie has largely skated out of dangerous situations his entire life. Like getting involved with Balthazar and everyone like that, he hasn't had any real consequences. He hasn't been in real mortal peril aside from the shootout. And everything worked fine there. It was confusing. It was over. And now he thinks he's master of the world again, almost. Like he has no conception of how bad Detta really is.
Yeah.
To be fair, if you got through a shootout like that, completely stark naked, yeah, I'm pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's like right now, I don't know that I'm not actually immortal. I know I'm aging, but I mean, who knows how long I could go.
Oh, God, that is such a terrible combination. Normal aging, but immortality.
I'm just hoping that my mutant powers come out soon, mid-30s. I mean, there's still hope, right?
Maybe. Oh, gosh. Hope for some kind of catastrophe that brings out a secondary mutation. That's a thing in X-Men, right? I've only read the Grant Morrison books. But yeah, Eddie either cannot see because he is Jeff Bridges fearless, or he is choosing not to see exactly how dangerous things are, to the point where when Roland gives him one of the guns, he says, okay, this will be good for when the cats show up, because they've been hearing mountain lions off in the distance. Like, no, this isn't for the cats, man. You have to brain her if Detta comes back, because like she could derail all of this.
My favorite too is the Roland is telling Eddie over and over again, don't give her the gun. I need you to promise me you're not going to don't give her the gun. And Eddie's like, yeah, whatever. Sure.
What's hilarious is, I mean, we're jumping ahead. She doesn't even ask for it. She doesn't want it, but he still does.
She tries to say, I don't want the gun. Just give me some rocks.
Yeah.
Literally echoing what Roland says, give her some rocks. She's like, give me some rocks. I'm going to give you this gun.
Yeah.
Dude, come on, man. Letting the boys on the beach down.
Oh, man. Giving it, like, and Eddie's like, oh, rocks against one of these cats. Again, just not getting it at all, you know? and he even says, like, hey, or Roland even says, like, yeah, this isn't for the bugger, man, which is pretty funny. Not for the cats, not for the lobstrosities. Like, don't do this. And Eddie, like, again, just being ever defiant. He's like, oh, you're forgetting something. Every time Henry did this, he told me to grow up. So this again is just everybody's got their baggage.
And it really calls out how much scarier Roland's world is, because, you know, here we have the boogeyman. What does he do? He probably scary dances with you. And they, like you said, they have the bugger man, which I can't imagine he's doing anything real fun.
No. I think there's specific legislation about that in the UK.
Gilead sucks.
Oh, man. Yeah, I highlighted the Buggerman thing because that is just a funny turn of phrase to me. And, you know. So with this in hand.
You say Buggerman. I mean, Bugger, it means something over here.
Oh, it definitely does.
But it's also just a fun thing to say when something's gone a little bit wrong and you're washing up and you drop a plate. You're like, oh, bugger.
Yeah.
Like, it's just a fun, like, so I'm picturing when I hear Bugger Man, I just see some just clumsy bloke just stumbling around, knocking things over. I go, Bugger.
Is that a kind of a catch-all epithet or exclamation? Like we would say, fuck. If I dropped a plate, I would scream, fuck. Okay.
Bugger. Bollocks. Arse.
Yeah.
You know, general. Just keep doing swears for a while.
Yeah.
So the monster in Gilead is more of a George Carlin fuck bit. It's just a really multi-purpose, scary guy.
Yeah, the 7 monsters who can't be on TV. Yeah. So and like I said, this is interleaved. These different scenes. We get a little bit of Eddie and Detta, then we get a little bit of Eddie and Roland. Let's jump to what is happening in the present, something that's not there, with Eddie just gliding down the beach with Detta and them kind of getting closer. I'll lead with something here. And see how you two feel about it. It felt a little bit too pat. Initially on a couple of my read-throughs that that Eddie and Detta would just fall in love with each other like that. Going back through and looking at this with a fine-tooth comb and just like seeing the exact language that is used, I think it actually ends up feeling pretty good. There are some nice passages that kind of describe their kind of mutual human need outside of just like, hey, let's screw kind of thing. Like it definitely feels a little bit different. How did that relationship feel for you guys?
Like, I mean, my first read of it is a bit of, like you say, I found it a bit too quick and a bit too, I am loving you now. Like, you know, Star Wars. No, you wouldn't, Cole. You know, Star Wars. Padme and Anakin in the prequel trilogies, how they're just like, I am loving you with loving heart of love.
Yeah, we
love each other now. Like it was too quick and it was a bit too ham-handed. And this isn't as bad because that is just terrible.
Right.
So don't watch that bit if you watch Star Wars, Cole. I know you love it. It's a little bit too much, but I consider myself a man's man. I don't like the love bits in books. I like the shooting bits and the lobsters.
Yeah,
I'm not really here for that bit, and I know it's part of the story, but I'm here for guns and boys on beaches.
Yes,
yeah. all that I could picture when they were talking about how, with her helping, the wheelchair was just gliding. It really reminded me of Titanic. Like, she was Rose, like up on the front of the boat, like I'm king of the world, she's got her arms out and they're just, wind in their hair. I had a real Titanic vibe from it.
Just both of them just running up the beach. Whee! Yeah. Look at us go. Eddie's jumping up on the back crossbar like he's a kid who's pushing a shopping cart and then standing on it as it goes. Yeah,
it even makes sense because Detta is rich, and Eddie would be in steerage.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that class dynamic.
Well, they better watch out for that small rock sticking out from the beach. Uh-oh.
Left, right, left. They're doing the wheelchair slalom. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. It's a little bit muddy because as it's presented in the book, it does feel very, very fast. But I don't know how much time passes in this is the thing, because they start talking about Eddie's hair growing out and him growing a beard. So over the course of a couple of chapters, it feels very quick, but I honestly don't know how much time they've got with each other.
Yeah, you're probably right. Like in the original Shuffle chapter, that takes over, a couple of weeks, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like, it takes time, and there's nothing to say this doesn't take time as well.
Yeah,
a bit poorly defined times, but time is one of those awkward things in this sort of series, isn't it? Like, it could have been there for a month. Who knows?
Although Detta and Detta haven't been eating, so it couldn't be that long. Shit.
True.
Yeah. But
I guess they really do just love each other at first sight then. I guess it is real.
I suppose, yeah. Yeah. I even wrote down these notes and I still fell for that trap. Fuck. So let's talk about the food thing, because we're starting to see kind of her come apart at the seams too. Like, there's this scene where like we find the story that Odetta's telling herself about why she hasn't been eating. It's the fact that all they have is lobster, and it reminds her of a bad experience she had with scallops.
I love that. I really like this, and I think this actually links a little bit to Detta as well. Maybe she did have a bad time with scallops once. She did eat them and she bathed them all up once.
Yeah.
And maybe that has imprinted onto Detta why she won't eat. It helps why she won't eat.
Oh,
maybe.
yeah.
Maybe it's unrelated, but I sort of picked up on that as being maybe another sort of background detail in the whole non-eating issue.
I didn't consider that it might have that one might have fed into the other. That this might be true.
I mean, also, Detta's all very, fuck you, no. But
of course,
that helps maybe. Yeah, because she has the mind of a child.
It could it could be both. Yeah.
Could be both.
I kind of got a weird vibe from this with some of the language. Like, I think when she's looking at Eddie and she's like, do you remember how hard I tried to keep it down? I kind of got, for anybody that's read The Stand, a weird Rita Blakemore vibe. Like, that was who Odetta's kind of trying to pretend to be with her act with the fancy lady kind of act. Like, It seemed like that weird Rita Blakemore language. Like, oh, Eddie with the sparkling rings. Like, whichever character
Larry,
it was.
Larry,
yeah, but I tried not to throw up. I mean, I just remember that scene from The Stand very vividly, and I don't think that that's a spoiler, but it's weird that that's what her mind would go to as the excuse. Like, oh, I was trying so hard to be polite, but I just couldn't, could I?
These accommodations are just so barbaric. Yeah. Yeah, I had forgotten about that scene, and I just re-listened to The Stand too. Yeah, I can't wait to talk about that book. That is a very good book. But you're right. Like, I didn't read any like malice into Odetta's approach, but from like what we know about let's say Odetta's relationship with herself after the events of this book, that's probably very much in the cards, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't know. I love the way that they make up the stories to try and protect the shared lie between the two of them, right? Because like there's also a thing, like, she is afraid of Roland because Detta's afraid of Roland, right? Part of the reason why Detta is working so hard to make their life difficult and try and get revenge, and why things come to a head later on, is because Detta is angry at Roland for invading her mind, right? But then you look at this, and Odetta is terrified of Roland, not just because Detta is terrified, but because she is remembering Roland being really pissed off and yelling at Detta. Like, during their time, she is making up this thing that Roland is shouting just because he's mean, not because she herself is taunting him. Yeah.
I didn't pick that up, but yeah, I suppose so.
Yeah, it's just another thing that doesn't line up, right?
It is strange that she would have those impressions. Like, it does seem like somehow she is a little bit conscious of all this, because that's how, I mean, she has to witness some of it to fix that narrative. It really does show how hard she's trying if she has those vague impressions that she is reshaping.
Perhaps now they've had that moment at the door where they had the flash where they saw each other for a moment. Maybe that's causing a more bleed than usual.
Maybe. I mean, it's mentioned, I think, in the previous chapter that the act of kind of being pulled, or the act of having their mind invaded, kind of set Odetta and Detta kind of against each other a little bit more. Like, it is mentioned as kind of this inciting event, a little bit like being hit with the brick was.
And this is probably a little bit on the nose for the title of the chapter, but man, she sure is reshuffling those events in her head, isn't she? Zing.
Yeah. Yeah. So they get down the beach, and this is where their emotional bonding gets into a little bit sappy territory. You know, they're sitting on the beach. She has finally started eating. She loves the lobstrosity. It's the best thing. Wouldn't it be delicious with some caviar? And Eddie loses his shit. He's wondering, like, oh, where was I? You know, like, what have I been doing with my life? You know, like this, you know, just basically feeling like everything up till now has been a waste, or something along those lines. Why did he suddenly feel so grimy and abysmally beshitted? I love that line. And then we get the single sentence, one chapter sex scene, which is later with strange galaxies turning in slow gavotte overhead. Gavotte is a kind of dance. I had to look that up.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Turning in slow gavotte overhead. Neither thought the act of love had been so sweet, so full. And so there we go. It's consummated.
I mean, I'm happy they spent one sentence on that and moved on.
Yep.
I've read enough awkward sex scenes in books. Like, just, yeah, we get it.
Yep. Just make it short and sweet. Yeah.
I was a little bit put off when, because it just reminded me, like, I literally, like, this is a Paul McCartney, Michael Jackson song when he talked about how Eddie was as white as a dove's breast. And I mean, I am fair. I am very fair, but I don't look like a dove's breast. I mean, I'm alabaster, and when I get a tan, I'm more eggshell. But I mean, I just can't imagine Eddie is that fair.
Yeah. It just, speaking of like blaxploitation stuff, it reminded me of the scene in Shaft when the white officer holds up a black coffee cup and says to Shaft, "Oh, you don't look so black to me." And Shaft holds up a white coffee cup and says, "Yeah, well, you don't look white." Like, it was, just like doing this comparison. It's like, yeah. For some reason that brought it to mind. I could have done without her brown hand on his white, but I
thought it was funny too that when he did that cheesy line to her, like, well, we both looked gray in the dark, and I'm like, she just called you a gray meat for an entire chapter. like, why are you thinking that? Like, she was talking about you and Roland pulling each other's candles, and then you're like, God, we're both so gray, just like she said. Like,
yeah. And then there's also a line like when they're about ready to part ways, she says, "Oh, I've never slept with a white man before." And then he says, "Well, it doesn't, if it doesn't matter to me, it doesn't matter to you. Like, it just whatever. Let's just forget it." They just kind of cast it off. And like, again, we're back into that problem of these past couple chapters. I feel very uncomfortable and unqualified to talk about the racial dynamics of this. I don't know if it's uncomfortable because it is poorly handled, or if it's just, generalized white anxiety about this stuff. It's very difficult for me to know if from whence the insensitivity and uncomfortableness comes from. Yeah.
I think it comes from Stephen King.
Yeah, there we go. Let's blame it on him.
Off the hook.
Yeah, there we are. So,
jeez.
We can just let's lean into it and make it that. I think that is about as far as it goes. But
let's be fair, as red-headed people, we are the whitest of white.
I just like to picture 80s Stephen King sitting down and writing this and thinking that he was so woke. Like he was like, "Wow, I am really getting it on race. I am good."
Ooh, man,
I think he did a dab.
Yep, just dropped his head, raised his hands, dab it up.
Kept the pen in his hand and just sort of swished underneath.
He's like, I'm the most progressive guy I know.
Yeah, and it's funny because if you look at Stephen King, kind of throughout, like, you know, with accepting some of his tendencies, like say to put a magical black person in his books, kind of being one of the prime offenders of that particular trope. In general, he's very progressive socially, right? Like he's always been a vocal critic of like conservative governments, and you know, just kind of talking about, you know, just kind of things related to things like social justice. Again, ring a bell. You know, it has to be on every one of these shows. It's very strange to look at this and determine that maybe it's just of its time, and he was of his time then too. I don't know.
How old was he when he wrote these initial few books?
He was 19 when he started the first one. This came out in 87. I think he began writing it in 84. So I forget when he did this, but he had to have been at least like 30 at this point. Yeah. So that would be 30, 35, something like that, which is old enough. Yeah.
And like you say, maybe it's of its time as well. Like, perceptions on what is and okay, you know, what is good and what is not good to say have definitely shifted as we've gone down the years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, watch out, eggshells. Hang on. Sorry.
Yeah.
Well, I think you can see that, like, there's sometimes when I rewatch series, like the very first couple seasons of The Office and stuff, where they make some jokes, and I guess at the time they were still funny, but even in just 7 or 8 years, the tone of them is not. Yeah. It's laughing at someone and not with someone. Like, I mean, in a lot of ways, that kind of language does move on, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, move on. I see what you did there. Yeah.
I didn't see what I did there, so now I'm extra delighted. It's way better than my reshuffle pun.
It's even crazier. Like, if you go back and watch TV series from the 90s, especially like Friends gets really, really gnarly with some of this stuff.
Uncomfortable.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just things change. And so it's, you know, it's worth noting that somebody who is reading these books, you know, now, like if you're reading along with the show, you're probably going to notice, you know, the brown skin on white. Making a note of that feels very strange when at the time it probably, you know, who knows how far he was ahead of the curve or behind it even. But it's, you know, it might not have, this conversation might not have been had at that point by as many people as it is now. There we go.
I think at that time, everybody was so busy worrying that Murphy Brown was a single mother on television. And
so scandalous. What is that doing to the fabric of the morality in our country?
Exactly.
So there we go. Let's put that to bed for the rest of the series. Eddie and Susanna Neo Detta are partners, and they, you know, have a very strong relationship with each other, and the difference in their race only comes up pretty much never. It's more about Eddie being naive or being, you know, poor than anything else. Their
relationship moves on to the point where he gives her a gun that he shouldn't.
Yeah. Thank you for helping us move on. So Odetta sees the door before Eddie does. Well before, again, he remarks that her eyes must be better even than Roland's are. So again, you know, we've drawn another gunslinger. She's got this. This is her test, even though Roland isn't there. And they get there and it doesn't budge, right? So now here we are. We're on one side of the river. We've got the chicken over here, and we've got the fox still in the. I didn't think this through, but yeah,
and we've got a gun.
Yeah, we've got a gun, and Eddie, against Roland's advice and against Odetta's, let's say, protest, decides to leave the gun with her, thinking that, you know, he would not be able to live with himself if anything happened to her. But she doesn't.
She's the chicken in this scenario, isn't she? She's currently the helpless chicken.
Maybe.
If a wolf comes, she's done.
Yeah, I think so, except what if the chicken... So Eddie left the corn with the chicken, and the chicken turned into an evil chicken and took the corn up into the hills.
Like an eagle or a vulture or something.
Yeah. Turned into a vulture and went up into the hills and fashioned some kind of corn gun.
A piece of bamboo, just shooting them out.
Yeah. She's afraid.
Either way, bad move, Eddie.
Yeah. He's in love. It doesn't make any sense, but he's in love.
It's like the customs from his time.
She's been Detta for at least 10 minutes. But it'll be fine.
Yeah. It's everything's going to be okay. That chapter is behind us.
Yeah.
Quite literally.
Now Detta's got a gun.
Yeah. Again, she doesn't want it. She doesn't want to touch anything that Roland has because, she believes that, like her ma says, it has a hoodoo on it. Mm.
Also, that's how I feel about stuff when anyone yells at me. I'm like, I don't want to touch his stuff.
Yeah, no.
He yelled at me.
He's going to yell at me again.
He'll know I touched it.
Yeah.
He'll know.
So this leads to Eddie running 30 miles back to Roland. It's been established. Yeah. Hey, person who has recently dealt with substance abuse and withdrawal, why don't you run a marathon and change back to somebody who's going to be really upset with you that you gave away the fucking gun?
I hope that when he comes back, he's at least going to have one of those 26.2 stickers on the wheelchair or something, Maybe 2 since he runs back. Because how else do you celebrate a marathon like that?
Yeah, just a lobstrosity comes up and slaps it on there and goes, Data grats. And
if nobody knows, did you really run it?
Yeah. It's a solitary pursuit of perfection, as John Hodgman would say. You shouldn't do it. You shouldn't do it for the recognition.
He's pushing the damn wheelchair as well, which has been established is big.
Yep, it's big and heavy.
It's big. It's got wheels, but it's still a job. Like, dude. I know you want to get back to the whole boys on the beach scene, but you don't need to run, dude.
So there is a non-comedic angle to this, which is Eddie might just it's never stated, but putting myself in his point of view, he's. Imagine being terrified that your only lifeline through this world had died of fever while you were gone over the days that you left him alone. Eddie is stuck in between two people who are... Oh, wow. Huh. He's stuck in between two people who are incredibly vulnerable, who need protection. Eddie's sole role in life over the past several years has been to keep different people together. This is his version of hell, stretching himself to try and make sure nobody gets hurt on his watch.
Yeah, I totally. He's not just racing to race, he's racing to keep them both alive, isn't he?
Yeah. Yeah, I love the picture that they paint. Covered in sweat, his hair overgrown. He's got this beard, the crotch of his pants blown out.
Go on, son. Cole, I need to know. Have you ever run so fast that your pants split in the middle?
No.
Have you ever run so fast? Because I've never run that fast.
No, I've worn down the cuffs of jeans by running in them and stuff, but never blown out a crotch.
Yeah, I've blown out plenty of knees by sliding along the floor and doing pretend air guitar. We've all done that.
Yeah, doing your Jack Black power slides. Yeah.
Exactly. Sometimes you got to go somewhere, but not tall.
But not on your feet. Yeah.
You might have a ledge to go underneath.
I really like the contrast because he left before he ran his first marathon, post-coital bliss, and then as soon as he gets to Roland's like, did you give her the gun? What the hell?
That's the first thing he says. You gave her the gun.
And he goes through this whole thing. He's showing him bullets. Let me show you in detail how you screwed up. Yeah. You see this bullet right here? He has this whole object lesson on how Eddie fucked up.
He tears him apart. It's like Cyrano de Bergerac. Like, let me show you exactly how you fucked us.
Like, he's willing to waste precious bullets just to really like grind on him.
That happens later when they're by the door and he knows that Detta's watching. Eddie still believes that Detta's out there and has been eaten whole by a mountain lion. But Roland is just saying like, hey, let me tell you what I did with your gun. Here's mine. Shoots it in the air. It fires. I put the bad bullets in this one and the good ones in yours. She has 6 shots on us and she could fire them at any time. It
reminds me of the Melissa McCarthy, Sean Spicer bit from Saturday Night Live. Do I have to get the dolls?
Do I have to get the dolls? Oh, she's a treasure. Yeah.
You left her and he pulls out a Barbie with no legs. Over there and throws it across the crowd.
Yeah. Oh, gosh. And she's got a Vulture's corn gun. Yeah.
They're a good match.
So, but yeah, there's a wonderful just kind of like mic drop. You know, Eddie's like, "Oh, you gave her the gun. You gave her the gun. Is that all you have to say?" Roland says, "I feel like I've said everything that I need to say. I've said what's important." Yeah. But Roland, being ever resourceful, tells Eddie to sleep, even though Eddie desperately wants to go back and, you know, be sure that the person he loves is safe. So now we've got to go the entire 30 miles again. Compared to Detta, pushing Roland was like pushing a load of iron bars, is what we have here. So
I know they say he's a bit heavier, but he can't be 100 pounds heavier. I always picture Roland as being leaner than that.
Maybe with he has legs.
True. 100 pounds of legs?
I don't know how much legs weigh.
That's a lot of legs. I mean, if you take like wrestling, like the wrestler The Big Show is like 300 pounds, and he's a big boy.
Yeah.
And his legs would be 100 pounds. That's a lot of leg.
Yeah. Roland is always described as being a wiry Clint Eastwood kind of type, right?
I actually just Googled this.
Okay.
A leg is about 17.5% of your body weight. So for a 150-pound person, a leg weighs about 26 pounds.
Maybe got back.
Yeah. you got to think though that every little bit makes a difference, and also Roland doesn't know how to navigate like Detta does.
Yeah, and he is probably dead, dying weight. What with that fever and all.
Yeah. I mean,
and not really pushing. Yeah.
It cannot be understated or overstated just how close to death's door they are, almost literally, as they get to the door itself.
Brilliant.
As they get to the door itself and find out that Detta is gone.
Oh. That works on like every level, Cole. That's amazing.
It was accidental, but I decided to roll with it. So, death's door. Roland, from the prophecy, expects that the door will be labeled. Okay, this is death. We had the prisoner, the Lady of Shadows, and death as per Walter's kind of instructions. However, this one is labeled the Pusher. Sorry.
Well, you can't you have to have the. You can't say the death.
Yep. It could be the Little Death. I don't know. But yes, Roland tries to puzzle out its meaning while Eddie doesn't want to help him. He doesn't want to go through the door with him. He wants to find Detta, right? So, and this leads into a kind of long argument section. Is there anything important from that I've left out? Because I kind of went beyond it. I think the takeaway is just that Eddie is stubborn.
Like, is there any point at which, like, any of you guys thought, yeah, Detta's been taken by a wild animal? Did any of you think that at any point? Because it's like, yeah, that's not what's happened, obviously.
It seemed like that little kid thinking where you're like, well, maybe a bird flew out of the sky and poked out one of her eyes, and then she fell down. I mean, he was making these elaborate schemes for how she could have died.
Yeah. Yeah, he's thinking like, oh, she could have crawled up but then got exhausted or fell into a thing. Like he's covering every single angle, like almost doing a little bit like Detta and Detta did to avoid eating, or to justify why they avoided eating. Oh, I'm not going to eat that piece because you poisoned it. Well, I'll take a bite of this part. Well, you poisoned the other end. Like, nothing is actually convincing him.
Yeah. Are you trying to say self-delusion is sexually transmitted, Cole? because I'm into it.
This is called marriage. Waka waka waka. Oh man. So yeah, that's dumb. That was a dumb thing I said.
One thing that I thought kind of ties all of this together, because there's been the big thing with card metaphors throughout all of this, but I was kind of thinking, because we start off and we've got Roland who's pushing all these people to get to the tower, so he's getting them hooked on that drug.
Mm-hmm.
We've got Eddie who's replaced his drugs with being addicted to Detta.
Mm-hmm.
And we know, addicts don't make good decisions. Like, as I was even thinking, like, because there is that Steppenwolf song, The Pusher, and there's that line in there, let's see, the dealer is a man with the love grass in his hand. Oh, but the pusher is a monster. Good God, he's not a natural man. It just seemed, I don't know, like the whole book could really be a metaphor for drugs, like forgetting things, altered realities. We start with drugs all the way throughout it. So maybe this is less of a card game book and more of a drug book.
It's all but underlined in conversations between Roland and Eddie. Eddie's telling Roland, "Oh, you're a junkie. You're a different kind of junkie. Your junk is the tower."
Yeah,
right?
And they start off with the cops at the beginning with Eddie saying that those guys, their drug is busting guys like Eddie. But it seems like drugs run throughout the whole thing.
Yeah. I mean, there's even a line that takes that a step further and then transfers it over. Like, when they finally come to some kind of conclusion and they realize there's no sense even trying to convince each other. Roland says, "Oh, Eddie, I'm not going to argue anymore. There's no sense arguing with a fool." And he's like, "Well, so nobody's tried to argue with you about the tower." And Roland says something along the lines of, "It's exactly because people tried to argue with me about that I'm not going to argue with you about this."
Yeah, and Roland's chasing the tower right now, but he's also seeking drugs. He needs his Keflex, he needs his Aston, his meat things.
Yep.
So Roland's chasing actual drugs as well.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah, and then mapping this in Stephen King's life as well.
He's the pusher.
Yeah. So
you say drugs. It could. Everyone has a hobby, right?
Yeah. A preoccupation and obsession.
You know, we actually meet someone in just a minute that has a really great hobby.
Oh, yeah. He's an amateur lepidopterist. Yeah. So Detta's been watching up from the drawers, right? Up there in the foothills. I love when we get to one of Detta's sections because we can tell just by looking at the page because it's unbroken paragraphs. Very few even sentences. It is just stream of consciousness as, she's having this conversation with herself that is intermingled with the narrative or the narration.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
She's explaining it all to herself.
Yeah. In
her brain to try and to formulate maybe a plan or to kind of observe, because she's quite clever.
Yes.
Like viciously clever. So she's taking in what's going on. Yeah. She's trying to work out what she's going to do with them, and she's going to see which way they fall, so she can then adjust her strategy to them. So she's kind of talking it in her own head about Eddie and the capital letters really bad man.
Yes, the really bad man.
And they've probably said his name at this point, but
what's that?
They've probably said his name to her as Detta at some point. Nah, really bad man. That's you.
She thinks in archetypes.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is also where we get the section where we get her motivation, right? She wants revenge for the invasion into her mind.
Yeah. She would really like to break Roland's for special plate.
Yes. Very much so. So this is also where we get the gunfire, which he did also so Detta would know that they have a loaded gun with them as well. She intuits that. While Eddie is just thinking, "Oh, this is the man trying to make a point to me." And Roland goes to the door, and Eddie is left waiting, but deadly, deadly tired. Again, another one of these ticking clocks that is going down. The sun is setting, the lobstrosity is coming. Roland's fever progressing. All of these things are drawing to a head. And just it's a real Nightmare on Elm Street kind of thing, like trying to stay awake.
And he has just walked 90 miles altogether.
Yeah.
I was
Let's be fair to the poor man.
it really shows what a worthy adversary Detta is, because when we went to Tull, like Roland in the first book, Roland was clipping people with single bullets, and I mean he didn't have the scarcity of bullets, and we've already seen him spend an Eddie bullet about Detta. We've seen him firing this bullet about Detta. I mean he's willing to waste some bullets when she's not around just to show how I guess dangerous she is.
Yeah, he he more than anybody else is aware of what that bullet could have done. For their good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So these next two chapters take place over roughly the same time. The time is kind of interleaved in a pretty cool way. But this takes us into chapter 1 of The Pusher. Don't worry, these are not incredibly long. Like that was a very, very long interstitial section we just went through. But this chapter is called Bitter Medicine, and this is where we get introduced to the Pusher himself, to Death But Not For You, one Jack Mort.
Really hitting it on the nose with the name there.
A little bit, it's
yeah.
There's very little about him that's subtle, and his role in kind of the cosmology of this as agents of kings of a certain let's say a certain color of red is something that again is Ka working its will over all of this. But as it stands, we have Roland entering this person's mind and seeing that, this person is about to push Jake Chambers in front of a car. Oops.
Yeah.
Pickett. I mean, what a time.
Yeah.
Hey, why does that name sound familiar? Huh?
Oh, Jake, you mean the little boy from the first book who came to Roland's world by being pushed in front of a car, dying, and then who Roland let drop so he could get to his tower?
No, that's not the one I'm thinking of.
No. Oh, you mean the Jake Chambers from Boise? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Roland immediately, instinct takes over, and he comes forward right away. He doesn't even attempt to negotiate with Jack Mort. He just stops the action from taking place. He stops the push, right? Which ends up being a really big deal for the next book.
Yeah.
But this could have just been a trick on the Man in Black's part, right? Oh, here we are. He weaseled out of it. This could have been Walter's last joke to, make Roland responsible for the initial death that led to the other death. Again, this is a hall of mirrors.
And Roland kind of pulls back, and then the character Jack Mort is so pissed. I like that my dude loves pushing so much that he's like, well, I'm just going to push some other people on my way out. Push her, push this guy. Yeah.
I'm just going to throw a push tantrum.
He's like, I love to push. What can I say?
Yeah. Jack Mort is just cartoonishly evil. In a way that is weirdly even more cartoonish than Detta. Than Detta is, because she has, strangely enough, a motivation and kind of a causality behind her, whereas Jack Mort, he kills just for fun, right? As he's having his push fit, somebody raises a fit, and there's a wonderful little description. Just this kind of sends chills down my spine. He just walks past her, right? An amateur lepidopterist, a butterfly collector, would have taken no more notice of a common butterfly. Jack was, in his way, much like an amateur lepidopterist. He was, by profession, a CPA. Pushing was only his hobby. He kills for no reason, but for fun.
See, my vision of him, my thing. Have you in Sin City, Elijah Wood's character?
Yeah.
With the glasses you can't quite see through. That's what I think of him looking like. Detached, sort of quiet in his way, but very, very dangerous.
Yeah. Quietly,
small, unnoticeable. Yeah.
Yeah, just quietly threatening, because his coworkers are afraid of him too, but they don't know why. like Roland notices this when he looks through his eyes and sees that. It's funny that you say that, Paddy, because in the comic book adaptation, that is exactly how Jack Mort is portrayed, with his with his glasses kind of becoming these white panes, like the reflection is always in front of his eyes.
So you can't see what he's thinking.
Ooh, yeah.
Self-destruction. Ooh.
It's it is a stylistic choice. So, Autumn, what do you think of Jack Mort? How he's portrayed? What kind of guy he is?
It's hard not to think of every serial killer trope that you've seen in popular media. We see a little bit later that he saves his clippings. He's got a murder book. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he has a giant Blake painting on his back, like a full red dragon, you know?
Yeah.
and again, like I said, he loves to push. There's a point where Roland's going back and looking through his memories where we start to see that stuff is really, really connected.
Yeah. Because Roland is very uncomfortable in Jack Mort's mind. He describes it as being in a room filled with worms, as opposed to a room full of snakes, like being in Detta's mind. But he looks back, and it turns out that Jack Mort is the one who dropped a brick on young Odetta Holmes, thus creating Detta himself. Right.
Just cartoon evil.
Yeah. Like his method was, he dresses in baggy shirts to hide the wet spot on his jeans because he immediately orgasms when he death charges somebody, drops a brick on them, and then, knows how to get away by acting like a vagrant. And he has this, he has this thing in his head about being a do be or a don't be.
That's weird, isn't it?
Yeah. Do you guys
kids?
Do you guys remember that? Did either of you read Misery? Because that was a big thing that Annie Wilkes always said: is don't be a don't be, be a do be. That was a big thing throughout that book.
Yeah, it was. I'm not sure if that is something from outside of Stephen King's kind of collected works. Like if that is a thing from media, because it does sound like something a kindergarten teacher would say to
like a Goofus and Gallant from High Life magazine or something.
Yeah.
See, I can't see. You probably wouldn't get this, but we had a TV show in England called Stop It and Tidy Up, which was an animation show for kids, and all the creatures in it were named after things parents would say to kids, like stop it and tidy up. And there were two B's called Be Quiet and Behave. And then I'm reading this and I can't get Be Quiet and Behave out of my head.
Was that the show that came on right after the Bugger Man cartoon hour?
Oh, God. Jeez.
Things parents say.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that might even be a thing. People's parents, they shout expletives. It's fine. So it's perfectly normal. Yeah, it like the do be don't be thing lends just a little bit of childish sinisterness to his calculation, right? Take only acceptable risks, minimize those which remain, be a do be in all things. Like, there's also a comparison, like in the next episode we're going to talk about how ridiculous it is that Roland, the consummate improviser, is inhabiting the mind of somebody who meticulously plans things over years and years and sticks to them.
Yeah, he's got a real Dexter thing going. Like, the preparation that he does is such a part of his ritual, his becoming. Yeah.
I mean, the link here as well. I mean, his name's Jack. Like, there's another famous Jack that killed a bunch of people and didn't really get caught, isn't there?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's laying on pretty thick.
He's also got like a little bit of it's like Kefka from Final Fantasy VI. Like, I'm just going to read this. I know I've read a lot of excerpts in this episode, but I think there's plenty of good stuff. But like, he's got this kind of cosmic justification. What mattered was the thing which pushed change into the ordinary course of things and sculpted new lines in the flow of lives. And perhaps the destinies not only of those struck, but of a widening circle around them, like ripples from a stone tossed into a still pond. Who was to say that he had not sculpted the cosmos today, or might not at some future time? So
I mean, that is right, though.
Yeah, he's right, but for the wrong reasons.
He's dead on.
That's exactly what he did.
Yeah, I mean, well done.
Yeah,
I guess.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like megalomania. He sees himself as unto a god. He everybody around him is just something on which he can exert his will.
That kind of makes it more satisfying. That I mean, he thinks he's like that, and Roland just pops up on him because I mean, Roland's on a real quest for some real cosmic shit.
Yeah,
and Jack's just a passenger.
Oh, man.
I think it's really interesting that Roland either didn't have the opportunity because maybe he was so surprised to see Jake Chambers, but we didn't see Roland kind of rifling around in people's minds like this before. Like something about maybe seeing Jake, Roland is just ruthless. Yeah. Like he's going back through this guy's memories, making judgments, and we just didn't see it to that degree with the other two characters that he had drawn.
No, like Mort is just a vessel, like a vessel that knows how to navigate this world and happens to be in the right place for him to do what he needs to do, which is all the better. There's also a little scene where he goes like looking for the man in black. Again, thinking back to the way Jake described the series of events. Back to the past. So Jack Mort death charging Detta isn't the end, because we get this summation that he followed the newspaper clippings and saw like, oh, her name's Detta Holmes, and she recovered, she lived, and so he actually was the person who ended up pushing Detta in front of the train to kind of finish the job later on. So again, Jack Mort is kind of the linchpin for creating this quartet in a weird way.
Yeah, I guess Eddie's the only one that he doesn't really touch, because he's got Jake, he's got Detta.
Yeah. There's another connection though. This feels a little bit like Unbreakable or something like that. But the person who was driving the car that hit Jake was Jack Gandolini, or no, it was Balazar. Yeah.
Was it?
Yeah. That's that shows up later. Again, when it gets into like, hey, all this stuff is just a little bit too convenient. Hey, Cod did it, but that is the connection.
Stephen King has written 10 characters, and that's the only 10 he's going to use.
Yep. It's not great, but it's there.
Who's driving the car? Who's free at this point in the story? You'll do.
Wait a minute. The robot from Wolves with a Kala? Come on.
God, everybody in Gilead must have been like, oh, Ka made me do it. Oh, it was Ka for just anything you want to do. Like, did you break that vase? It was Ka, man. I don't know. It wasn't me.
Yeah.
It's Ka.
Ka has a reason. Oh, man.
And you can just see other people just looking at, oh, fuck you. Every single time. Like, nah, come on.
Yeah.
As they should.
Well, my Ka is about to punch you in the face.
Oh, man. So all of this leads Roland to think, hey, this guy, probably not the best person to be alive. And he also devises a plan, hoping that Detta doesn't look into the door and see him turning around to check what's happening, because, it's all right here. His plan to thwart Detta is to get her to see herself through the door, but only when he has finished his business. And he devises this by looking out and seeing that Detta has actually laid a trap for him using Eddie.
He can see her shadow, can't he?
Yeah. You can see it. You can see it all coming together. Like he recognizes right away that it is like a hunting kind of thing where you leave bait and then just wait for the animal to come in. It is a honeypot, and that is the name of this next chapter, the honeypot, which happens during the course of this previous chapter. Because Eddie, he done slipped up and fell asleep.
He's not having a good day, is he?
No.
Oh, man. You gave her the gun. Then you went to sleep. And you had a nap.
Yeah, you had...
Detta made you take a nap. Roland made you take a nap. You've had plenty of naps.
If I told you not to jump off a bridge, would you jump off it? You would.
Yeah.
At a certain point, being a sleepy boy is not an excuse. Oh, man.
Maybe Roland should have tried the reverse psychology. I want you to give her the gun as soon as you see her.
Well, no, Dad. Fuck
then
you.
I want you to go right to sleep. Go to sleep.
Oh, man. So Detta's been watching and takes a look at this. Her plan is, again, to set up this this honey pot. But we get a little bit more dissonance here, actually, because she watches Eddie kind of like longingly touch the wheelchair, right? Like thinking of Detta. And this kind of causes her to have a moment of mental indigestion, it seems like. Did you guys notice that?
That's a clever
definitely.
phrase.
Because she has feelings that she doesn't understand. It actually makes her stop, makes her hesitate, recognizes that something is bubbling to the surface, and then says, apropos of nothing, to somebody that she has never acknowledged up to this point, saying, you're gone, and now you're going to be gone, and pretty soon you're going to be gone for good. Like addressing the Detta inside her. I don't know. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but that's how it came across to me.
I just think it's a little creepy, like seeing Eddie like groping on her wheelchair. Like, I mean, is she gonna like use a tissue and he's gonna go smell it next? I mean, like, God, I wish I could smell Odetta's hair right now. I wish I could just hold her hand.
But Autumn, he's so sleepy.
At least he only touched the hand, not the seat, eh?
Yeah.
And hey, let's think about this. Roland was probably the last one in that chair.
Oh, there we go.
Ew.
There's another moment of dissonance when she starts like, again, this is just self-talk. Like, she notices the contradiction between them trying to keep her alive and also them trying to poison her. It can't be both, right? And we actually see her arrive at, oh, they just wanted to make me throw up so they could humiliate me. Okay, there we go. Like, we see her reconciling these two incompatible truths.
Classic Detta.
Yeah, I just I dig it. She looks through the door and sees that Roland is holding up a drugstore clerk. We're gonna get there pretty soon. Don't worry.
Love that.
Yeah,
Roland's not dicking around. Like,
you know, we talked about at the beginning why we chose this episode. I'm pretty ready to just do fake voices for whoever is on the next episode, and let's just keep rolling right through it. I'll be like, yeah, I don't know, I'm Chase or somebody. Whatever. Let's talk.
I don't know if you're aware. You weren't doing a voice there. It was just your voice. It was just your voice.
This is Evan. Who's Autumn? I don't know.
Oh man. And we're pretty close to the end here, so we can just say Eddie wakes up with some pain around his neck. She has tied a noose around his throat, and she's strung him up with slip knots, taken his gun, and then put him at the shoreline as the sun is going down and the lobstrosities will be coming out. And Eddie himself recognizes this because at one point Henry described the way that the Viet Cong would use honey traps back during the war when Henry was a gunslinger of a sort. And we end this chapter and we end this episode with the countdown toward impending doom and Eddie staying tense, trying not to strangle himself as, apparently Roland has taken up petty larceny.
This is that really good description of Detta's, like, calculating meanness, though, isn't it? Like, She spent time on this plan. She sat there and I think there's a line on like, while you were sleeping, I was braiding, I think was it. Yeah. And, like, it shows how easily she can overpower him, even without really using the gun. Like,
no.
She's got the gun, doesn't need the gun.
She's not going to waste a bullet on Eddie. Bullets are precious.
Yeah.
He's not a threat.
Yeah.
And only 1 in 4 of them actually work, so, you know.
Yeah. I think it's really satisfying for everyone. It's satisfying for the reader because Eddie was wrong. Look, now he's choking to death. Detta's satisfied because she's got Eddie. She's got this trap. And Roland was right. I mean, everyone except Eddie is really satisfied right now.
Yeah. It's it is again a hall of mirrors of I told you so's. Yeah, no, it's pretty great. You know, Detta through sheer cunning has seen a vulnerability, waited patiently for it to expose itself, and then used it to set up her kind of coup. Pretty good.
Great day.
Yeah. Just all together, really good day for her.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to lean just a little bit more into kind of like weird let's say progressivism here. It's pretty good that, like, despite her handicap, it never comes up. Like it in no way hindered Detta being able to get the upper hand over this. Like, and we're going to see that in the future. It's never the fact that she is, a paraplegic that causes problems. It's never even really drawn attention. Like, no attention is ever drawn to it. It's just the presence of the wheelchair. And even that ceases to be a problem after the 4th book. As they get rid of this dinosaur of a thing.
And once again, everyone is very lucky that she's in a wheelchair because Roland and Eddie would both be dead. And like we talked about, she would be queen of the lobstrosities right now, yep. Being born on a litter.
Yeah.
I mean, she really is terrifying, and she's good.
Yeah. Just deadly. Cool. So I want to hear final thoughts. Autumn, kind of summaries on this, like on where we're leaving this, on the things that happened here. What do you think?
I thought this was solid. We addressed some of the bits that were a little strange to the modern reader, but all in all, as I said, I'm so excited about what happens in the rest of the book that it's almost painful to be stopping right here.
Yeah. That's happened a couple times this season, actually. I don't know if it's so tough because like this has been an hour and a half episode. Like if we went the full way, this would be like a 3-hour long thing. And that's only for a waff. Yeah, no, it's I finished the book last night because I couldn't stop myself for my reread here. Paddy, how about you?
Yeah, I really enjoyed that this chunk of the book is sort of the setup to the climax. Really, like we're putting the pieces in place. We're setting up our tower of cards. We've shuffled them, and now we're setting them up. And then the last chunk, they're all going to fall. Really good setup. I like that they're developing the relationships between the characters a bit more as well. I love that Eddie, like they're just painting him as such a stubborn, not listening piece of shit.
Yeah,
Eddie, don't. Eddie, come on, please learn.
Trust Roland for once in your life.
Look, listen to Roland, or you're going to get trussed up and left on a beach. You laugh now. Oh, you know what happened to me? Yeah. There's only 3 people in this world. It's going to happen to someone.
Flip 2 coins.
Like you say, yeah, it leaves us on like a massive cliffhanger, and I wanted to carry on reading straight away. And I probably will when we're finished.
Yeah.
Just to finish it off, because I can't leave a cliffhanger like that. It's too good.
Nope. Yeah. This chapter for me, one of my favorite things about this book is the fact that they are so constrained, right? The idea that when Roland later on finds out, again, the riches of the world that he's wandering into, it puts this whole thing into kind of starker contrast. They're working with such limited resources. They've got any number of timers working against them, like I said. There are so few moving parts in the midworld side of this on the beach itself. It is, for a story that involves interdimensional doors that reach to the biggest city in the world, or one of the biggest cities in the world. So keeping that in mind, this is as much of a kind of like locked room mystery as it can be, or like a bottle episode almost. Like it is just these personalities working up and, bumping up against each other, and also against kind of the constraints that are set, that are, that will do them in. How much time until Detta turns back into Detta? When does the sun set? When do the lobstrosities come out? When is Roland going to succumb to his fever? Like all of that makes this incredibly tense with kind of, again, like I said, very few moving parts. Cliffhangers.
Dun, dun, dun.
It's going to be very action-packed next time. But until then, let's talk about where people can find us. Autumn, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Mrs. Greer. That's at MISSUS Greer. And I am also in the Cool channel on Slack, which is Radio Free Midworld.
Yeah. Paddy, how about you?
You can find me on Twitter at Paddy Stardust. You can also, if you want to listen to me talk more, follow me on Twin Humanities, which is our Dark Souls podcast we do. We're better than the other one. Hi, Cole.
Hi.
We're not. We also do another show called Other Humanities, where we talk about comics and books and TV shows we like as well. So enjoy that too. And I'm also on YouTube in the middle of a one bro run of Dark Souls 1. And I beat Ornstein and Smo. Thank Christ. I think last time I was still there, so it's nice to have gotten past that now.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, come join. It's been fun. Yeah.
Go for it. I recommend it. Yeah. And me, you can find me at Kole Ross, KOLEROSS on Twitter and on other shows here on Duckfeed.tv. Programming note, the next episode is going to be about the conclusion of the drawing of the 3. Before we move on to the Wastelands, which I'm very excited about, we're going to be doing another kind of mid-season special kind of thing, talking about the book Rose Matter, which has a handful of connections to the Dark Tower series. It's still a little bit tenuous, but it's there. And looking forward to getting that. It's a Stephen King book I've never read before, so it'll be fun to talk about. Again, as we branch out. But otherwise, thank you so much for listening. I've seen the iTunes reviews that we've gotten. I thank everybody for their kindness and taking the time to do that. Some very nice words, some good encouragement. It is fantastic. Autumn, Paddy, thank you very much for being on the show. Paddy, I know it's very late for you. But yeah, it is time for us to go. Until next time, long days and pleasant nights. Cool. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you.
That was neat. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, you guys are both delightful.
Yeah. It's the red hair thing, you know?
Yeah.
We've got that camaraderie.
Fair skins on the beach.
Oh God, this is disastrous.
No. No, in England, there's actually there's a redhead like appreciation day where they have like a parade and a march. It's in the middle of summer.
Oh, yeah, that's so cruel.
Dude.
At least make it like the third week of October. Come on.
I'll never go to that because I will not patronize myself by going to a fucking goddamn thing like that.
No.
No. But geez, like middle of August, like come on, guys.
No, that's a trap. They're trying to thin your numbers.
Huge trap.
Don't fall for it.
We're better than that, surely. You know, I burnt in half an hour once. That was my record. 30 minutes from 0 to pink.
I've got a little pink in my cheeks, like just walking to our mailbox before, just to get the mail. Like we have a longer driveway, and I've come back in and been a little like. I mean, it'll fade by the next day, but
it still sucks. It's still a reminder of I thankfully I don't burn as easily. However, when I last went on vacation last July, I got so burnt on the tops of my feet and on the tops of my knees because I forgot to put sunscreen there that I actually got sick and I was basically bedridden for 2 days on vacation.
I always forget to put sunscreen on the part in my hair, and then I have that great shedding out dandruff from the scalp burn.
Back of the knees is where I always forget. I did that at a download festival once, and in the very first day, got the backs of my knees burnt, and then couldn't sit down properly for the next 4 days.
Yeah.
I had to kind of just waddle back and just fall.
You know, with quality content like this, do you want us to go ahead and just re-record the outro again where we can be found? Because, I mean, I think that this is gold.
This is honestly probably going after the outro music. So, yeah, because, you know what? I'm tired of suffering in silence.
Exactly.